it says it's being live streamed, so all good.
Okay, setting up your meeting for YouTube Live, directing to YouTube. Oh my gosh. Here we are. Okay. This is Gaelynn Lea. I think we're good. I think it's on the air. Oh, I'm going to mute this. Okay, so hello everybody. This is Gaelynn Lea. I hope you're able to find this video. We are not on the same link that I had advertised, and I feel really bad, but I am having some massive technical issues today that I'm going to have to resolve before the next show. But I want to welcome Kapil. You want to say your last name because I know I'm going to botch it again.
It's Kapil Seshasayee. I appreciate you not assuming how it would be pronounced, so
Yes,
thank you.
I try not to do that. And we met, of all places, at South by Southwest was the first time, right?
Yeah, it was my first ever gig in the US, and
So weird.
unfortunately, the last for a long time because of COVID. But
Well,
it was
yeah, that was not ideal. So then we met through that show because we were on the bill together, and so but you were in the theater space, right? Am I remembering this correctly?
yeah. It was the
Yeah.
Hideaway Theater, and it was quite. I think what I've learned is every year they put the more eclectic acts or the more out there stuff on in that venue. So it was like a band from Japan, a guy from South America, you, me. It was like, yeah, loads of stuff going on, and I was upstairs. You performed like downstairs, but yeah, it was a really awesome gig. I had fun for my first ever gig in the States. It was pretty awesome for
Yeah,
sure.
no, that is. And then we kind of got to chatting, and I really liked his music and also just his personality. And so when he said, next time you come to the UK, I could help you get some shows in Scotland. And so we actually did that was it only like a year later? I think it wasn't too much time afterwards. So
Yeah, it was like 6 months because we met in March, and then in October and November you were already. I think you already had a London date or something, and I thought, hey, why don't I get you an Edinburgh date and a Glasgow date, and that's what we did. Yeah, and it was great.
yeah, it was pretty fun. So we played. I had never been to Scotland. I didn't do any research because this was a tour that was coming up really quick, and I get off the train in Edinburgh and I was like, oh, it's beautiful. What the heck? I had no idea. And then we had so much fun in Glasgow. I want to go back so bad. That was a fun little part of that
Yeah, you're
tour.
welcome anytime. And as people have been asking me, because obviously we've stayed in touch, and I told people I was playing this tonight, and a lot of people said, "When's Gaelynn next coming to the UK? When's she next playing Scotland?" And I thought, I'll ask her when I'm in the interview, and hopefully she'll have an answer for me.
Yeah, I'm trying to work on. So I'm writing a memoir right now, and I'm trying to get the rough draft booked done so that like I can start thinking about really touring full time again. And I'm still trying to juggle COVID. Like I've been doing shows indoors if people are wearing masks, which is not very traditional, but that's what I want to do to make it really inclusive to people who are higher risk. So I'm thinking either majority would be like outdoor shows possibly or some venues that are willing to do that. So there's a lot of little more COVID made things a little more complicated for everyone obviously, but for what I'm trying to do accessibility wise, I want it to be, welcoming and cool for people. So trying to figure out that. But I know I'll be back eventually. Like I'll definitely let you know.
Yeah.
So I am excited to talk to you. You're going to do a couple instrumental pieces here, but I'm excited to talk to you because of the fact that your songwriting addresses some really like heavy issues. You know what I mean? And I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, what inspired that? Kind of like, was it, things that you thought about growing up, or was it something you learned about later in life? And can you kind of explain to people where your inspiration for some of the like more intense like
Yeah.
topics? Yeah.
Sure. So, for those who don't know me, who are tuning in this evening, I'm a protest musician based in Scotland, and a lot of my work ranges from really dense topics like the Indian caste system, but stuff based in the West as well, like nationalism and censorship of minority voices, and even disability rights activism that aligns with your own work, Galen, because
Yeah.
both my parents are disabled, and in looking after them, it's not the same. I'm able-bodied. However, I have a window into how the world views and treats them because I spend a lot of time with them, obviously. And it came from two things. If I had to generalize, I think my writing and me wanting to be a protest musician came from a couple of instances. It came from I grew up with stuff that I was angry about, but I didn't know how to articulate that I wanted to do something about it. And that could be anything. It could be, for those who don't know, the Indian caste system's this really big, like this really backdated form of bigotry. It's like a social hierarchy that began within Hinduism. Now you can find it in Islam and Sikhism. And basically, you're born within a social tier of this born within a tier of this social pyramid, and you're not allowed to fraternize the people out with your tier. You can't fall in love out of the tier, and you get people who are forced to marry people they don't love, people who aren't allowed to marry people they do love, people who get murdered over being in the wrong place at the wrong time. And this happens in modern India to this day. And I would read about it. I would witness stuff like that growing up when I visited family in India. And it would make me think, man, I want to talk about this. But I'd come back and people didn't want to talk about it, who did know about it, or people would not be sure of what I was talking about. They would kind of be confused over what this was. So I thought, right, I have to find a medium by which I can communicate this stuff. And for me, it was, I already had been playing the guitar for a little while, and I thought, why don't I write a song about it? And one thing led to another, and then I ended up writing a whole concept album about the Indian caste system, and I'm following it up with an album about Bollywood that's coming out this November. I love it. I mean, I love being South Asian. I love my Indian heritage. A lot of the Indian classical music I heard growing up worms its way into my guitar playing, as you'll hear later.
I've noticed that.
Yeah. But it's like there's stuff that frustrates me, and it sucks that we're not talking about it. And you know, we have that in common. It's like you're addressing stuff in your work that isn't often being addressed in the mainstream when it comes to music. And it's the same with me. It's like you want to platform a discussion that's important to you, and you know that it's important to other people, but it's not charting, it's not a mainstream dialogue yet. And for me, it's like the more shows I play, the more people I connect with, the more platforms I'm on, like this one you're providing for me so kindly. Like you can only get better in terms of getting people talking about it. And the other thing that probably got me on this path was he's American, so I feel like especially your older listeners might be aware of him, but there's this singer called Scott Walker. He was in the Walker Brothers. They had this hit in the 60s called The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore, but after the Walker Brothers and his pop stardom kind of faded, he would kind of do this mountain man thing where he would make an album once every 10 years, but every album that would come out once every 10 years was just amazing. And he has a couple of albums where every song's about something really intense, and it's quite challenging to listen to. But I heard this when I was about 20, and I thought,
okay,
when I heard this music, I went, whoa, it's not like, I'm not saying I love a love song as much as the next guy. I love a good 80s pop song too, but it's like songs about something that's so dense, like racism and famine and shit. He was and 9/11. He was grappling with heavy shit, and he was singing about it, and it made me go, oh, there's hope for me if I want to be angry about something dense. Because growing up, I kind of thought, I'm not good at breakup songs. I'm not good at love songs. Or maybe there's not a place for me in terms of writing music. But listening to his album, as weird as it is, like I recommend everyone check Scott Walker out. His music is incredible, but his earlier stuff is like 60s crooner kind of vibe. So lush strings, his voice, it's amazing. But later on, shit gets weird to be a bit to be candid about it. And when I listened to that music, it made me think, right, I'm really inspired. I want to go out and do it. And that's how I ended up here, I guess, as a protest musician.
That's really cool. So
yeah,
are there other like artists of Indian descent who are making similar like music about this topic, or are you kind of the only one? Like I'm sure there must be others, right? Or maybe
no,
not.
yeah. It's really fascinating because I think that a lot of the time when Indian people in the West make music, it's not taken as seriously in India because they think, oh, well, you grew up in the West, like how legitimate can your stance on things like caste or politics be? But there are quite a few South Asian musicians making this politically minded music, but 9 times out of 10, they're kind of doing hip hop. I haven't met as many musicians doing like more guitar-based music or like, you know, stuff that touches on classical and folk as myself. But I'm not implying that I'm the only one doing it. It's that I've met a few people doing it, but it's a slower movement. I think if you want to find really great politically minded music about the shit that I'm singing about, rap and hip hop's going to be where you find it by and large. And, you know, it's a really burgeoning social movement. So many amazing songs being written that it's an exciting time. And I'm friends with loads of rappers who are doing incredible things, singing about government oppression, stuff that's going to get them locked up, but they don't care. They're out there rapping and dropping these verses, and it's amazing, you know?
Yeah, that's so cool. So one thing that, because today was the day of tech total mayhem on our end.
Yeah.
So unfortunately, you're not going to be able to sing for us, but you play guitar with influences of Indian classical music. And how do you feel like it's kind of a? I like that you kind of bridge this gap because you're critical of a lot of the culture but you still are. Obviously, you must appreciate the musical heritage for
like,
sure. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like I grew up with loads of Indian classical musicians in my family. Like my earliest musical memory, I'm sure you have this too. It's what's the first music you ever heard? The first music I ever heard was it was like my cousins who are classical musicians, like practicing. They were doing their vocal exercises. They were getting ready to do gigs in like temples and stuff. And yeah, I remember being enchanted by that and thinking, yeah, I want to do this. And on my new album, I'm celebrating Bollywood films that not enough people have seen. I'm celebrating things that people should be aware of, but maybe aren't aware of yet. For me, it's like my music on an equal playing field celebrates stuff as much as it's critical of it. And for me, it's like the kind of, because it's the same in the West where we are just now, isn't it? Like classical music is traditionally kind of gatekept. Class is in the title. Yep. It's like you have to be a certain kind of person to play classical music, whereas folk music's kind of music for everyone. And I'm kind of looking at it as, what if I make music that's got a classical vibe, but it's critical of classism, so that it's almost generating even more controversy by being about the opposite, because a lot of Indian classical music is kind of guilty of being gatekept and being like, you have to be from this background and you have to have this caste background. And it's like, no, man, anybody who wants to be into this music should be able to listen to it and should be able to play it. And I thought, if you're not going to let it do it with your music, I'm going to write my own music and I'm going to bring that to as many people as possible. So yeah, like a lot of my guitar playing in particular, like takes a lot from like the Indian classical music that I grew up with. I mean, even the way like I tune this guitar, it's inspired by Indian classical music. And when I'm playing, you'll kind of go, where are all those wacky noises coming from? It's tunings that I've not found in guitar music. It's tunings that I found in sitars and other Indian instruments that have inspired me for sure.
So interesting. Well, let's have you play. I'm gonna get out of the screen. Hold on a second.
Sure thing.
I'm gonna mute myself too and go ahead whenever you're ready.
Sure. This song's from my first album. It's called Exemption Hum, and it's about the Indian caste system, but it's inspired by like a movement within Indian Christianity where people leave the caste system and join a new religion. And there's a lot of melodies that I found in hymns as well as what I found in Indian classical music. So enjoy.
That's awesome. I gotta say, I'm sad we're not hearing your singing, but I do love instrumental music generally. Like, I listen to a lot of it, so that was really cool, and I can see what you mean by kind of incorporating that sound without just imitating it. You know, it's really cool. That's really fun. So, did you write that a long time ago, or how do you write instrumental music? I haven't done a lot of that.
So ironically, I'm like you. I don't write a lot of instrumental music. I almost had this riff knocking around, and I thought, I can't fit. There's nothing I like singing over it. So I thought, oh, I'll make an instrumental out of it. I actually, typically, this is more of a flute instrumental than it is a guitar one. Like, this is the guitar part from the song, but my wife plays flute over it normally when we play it.
Cool.
My original idea was to have her play with me tonight, but it's good news and it's bad news. The bad news is that she couldn't be here tonight, but the good news is that I'm immensely proud of her. She recently got her dream job and she's traveling, working just now, and she's having the most amazing time. So I'm kind of like, you know what? If you're killing it, doing what you always dreamed of doing, you can do that. I'll do the gig myself tonight. It's all good.
So cool. Yeah, you guys were engaged, I think, when I first met you. You weren't quite married yet.
So we had a COVID wedding. It was I can make these jokes, but can you imagine an Indian wedding with 6 people at it? Because of social distancing, you were allowed a few relatives, a couple of friends, and yeah, it was one of these weird, we got married and it was great and it was beautiful, but there was that frustration of, oh man, I kind of wanted to have a day where I celebrated with all my friends, and we haven't. It's a funny one because when you've married the right person, when the majority of your activity since getting married is you play gigs together, because the world opened up and we thought, oh, I'm getting offered all these gigs. And then all of a sudden, me and my wife are playing so many shows together. Sometimes we're playing full band. I'm really lucky. My band has 2 drummers and my wife on keys and flute, and it's a really fun time. But yeah, with the album coming out, keeping me busy, and with my wife having a lot of work stuff keeping her busy, it's kind of a we haven't done our proper wedding yet. We haven't had our honeymoon yet, but these things will come. Do you know what I mean? If she's happy and I'm happy and we're just doing our thing, you'll speak from experience. It must be interesting when one of you's a musician and the other one isn't, because we're both musicians. I don't need to explain how into music I am, because she's into music the way I'm into music. If you're in a relationship where one of you is a musician and the other one isn't, do you find, I don't know how you feel about this, but do you find that you have to take breaks away from music to be with your partner, that kind of thing?
Well, okay, so this is kind of we're a unique couple because Paul has always been, since I got on the road, he's always been the one traveling with me. So we are never apart basically. And then COVID hit and we live in a 500 square foot apartment. And so we've been together nonstop for 10 million years, it feels like, in a good way, not in a bad way. So I don't think that's the issue. I think for us, you probably experienced this. It's mostly because I'm a very DIY artist, it's mostly that you have to make some time where you're not working, basically. Yeah. I mean, and that, because he's very invested in what I'm doing, because he facilitates a lot of it. So it's not like he's oh, why are you always doing this? Because he's right there with me. But it is a matter of we have to find our own time. So we try to like tonight's our date night. So we do that every Sunday, and we make that a thing. So I think that's been the biggest thing, is you could work 24/7 on a career like this if you wanted to. And sometimes I tend to go that way. And so I try to have to rein it in. And I feel bad for people. It's true. There are some relationships where the spouses have completely different realities in their day jobs, but that's not really the case for us. It's like he's an honorary musician in a way. So
that's cool.
Let's have you do your last song, because I'm going to play one tune at the very end. But first, really quick, can you tell them the name of your next album and where they can find it? And I'll put the links in later as soon as I get off of here.
Yeah, sure. The new album's called Laal. It means red, and this is the album logo behind me here on the little light box here. It's on the album cover, and it'll be out on the 18th of November. If you like what you hear, do go follow me on Spotify, and I'm on TikTok and Instagram talking about all the topics behind my music quite extensively. Normally my music's a lot more groovy than the stuff I'm playing tonight, but we thought you know what? We could worry about tech all night, or I could just plug the guitar in and do it and have a
Yeah.
lovely conversation with you as well. Like sometimes you've just got to plug it and just do it live, and it's all the better for it, you know. So, the new album's called Laal. I just released a single off of it called Hill Station Epithet. Do go check that out if you like your. It doesn't sound a lot like it's got Indian classical vibes. It's quite political, but the new album it's a lot groovier. There's some synth, kind of R&B energy going on. So if you like to dance as much as you want to read up about like topics that you need to read up about, come check us out and come say hi. I'm always on socials, as you're probably well aware. And thanks again to Gaelynn for having me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. I'll play another song off my first. Actually, you know what? You have a folky kind of trad kind of audience, don't you? Yeah. So I'm really lucky that I get asked to do a lot of one-offs and collaboration kind of projects as well, because since my first album I've been asked along to do a lot of collaborations, and one of my favorite collaborations to date is I was asked to write a bunch of music for COP26, the climate change conference here in Glasgow, and I worked with a fella from the Isle of Lewis called Willie Campbell, an incredibly talented folk musician, and we formed a new band called the Dullimer Chorus. That we're not very active, but we write some songs together, and we worked on this instrumental together. It's called Whiteley, and it's about him growing up on the islands, going to the mainland to try and like find a career, and realizing that where he really belonged was the islands. So the song's called Whiteley. Thanks. Cheers.
That was awesome. Thank you so much, Kapil, for being here and making us do with all of the technical glitches. It was just great to hear you. And people, go check out Kapil's new album, Laal, and his first album as well. And then, do you have any of instrumental albums or not yet?
Not yet. There's instrumentals throughout the albums that I
Okay.
have, but I get asked to do more just guitar session work these days. So if people like it, I'll do more of it. So yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's really beautiful. Well, thank you for being here. And then, if you log out, I think I'll finish by playing. But go head over to the chat because people had some really lovely comments on the YouTube page.
I will see you guys in the chat. See you later, Gaelynn.
Yeah, thanks. Awesome. Let me get set up. Oh my goodness, the tech was ridiculous, but we're here now. So, let me pull this out. Okay, one moment. Cool. Cool. Oh, I didn't know Lord Wobbly. I didn't know you knew Kapil. That's really cool. Okay, I'm gonna back up. Thank you, Paul. Sweet. Okay. Oh my goodness, we're here. Okay, so this show, it's been a while, a few months, and something on my computer is out of date and I don't understand it. So I'm going to fix it. But the Zoom seems to work okay. So put a note in the chat if you feel like the sound was all right, because that actually was pretty simple, and I wish I had thought of that earlier in the day. I want to do these shows, continue to do these shows, even though it won't be every month. I really enjoy hearing from other artists and kind of what makes them tick, and Kapil is no exception. And just hearing their music. So thanks for being here. I'm gonna do the vocal song that I wrote for Macbeth. Before I have to leave for the Patreon Zoom. If you're in my Patreon team, in about 5 minutes, we're gonna do a Zoom. But this is called Perfect. It's the song that I feel kind of encapsulates Lady Macbeth. I wrote it about marriage in general, but I think it translates. And this is the one that actor sang on stage at the end, the very, very end of the play. So here we go. I got it wrong. It wasn't meant to be, wasn't meant to be perfect. We were so busy painting, we didn't see the corner. Some days we both felt trapped there, but still the nights were warmer. We navigated love, terms and conditions applied. Some were pre-existing, others grew over time. Behind the scenes, we just wouldn't let it go, wouldn't let it go to pieces. Who knew we'd dig our own graves here? No other would tend them with such great care. Ooh. Tragedy's viewed through its own lens. But just out of frame sits an old friend, watching our choices play out in the end, returning each other to where we began. Wish I had known it wasn't meant to be, wasn't meant to be perfect. There you go. That is perfect from the Macbeth soundtrack. I'm working on that this winter, hopefully to release sometime in the spring. I just wanted to say thank you very, very much to Kapil for joining me today and for his patience and his talent and his thoughtfulness. I'm excited to see and hear the new album, and then also just to keep in touch. And thank you to all of you for being here today and taking time to hang out with me on YouTube. And hopefully it won't be too long till we do another one of these. I'm going to be out of town basically all of November, and hopefully do at least one of these in December and maybe January too. So I want to keep going with these, just not next month. But take care of yourselves. Thank you for being here. I will put tip links in the video description. I am splitting half the tips, of course, with Kapil. So if you're able to, feel free to leave a tip. And thank you, and spread the word. Show this show to anyone if you enjoyed it with your networks. Appreciate it. Take care. Bye, everybody. Oh, it's actually a little different today. You gotta press the mouse pad and then press end call. Hold on one sec. Come here. We gotta find a way to end it. Okay, so on the zoom to the left. All the way. What a great way to end. Okay, click on the black. Nope. Okay, now press end call in the right corner. Okay, bye for real.